Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're taking a look at a cold case out of West Virginia. The senseless death of Cynthia Miller from 1981. This case has now come full circle, and detectives are closer today than ever before to actually solving this case and putting those who are guilty away for murder in this case. Thank you for joining me today. Beckley, West Virginia. On August 27, 1981, Cynthia Miller, age 27, of Beckley, was probably busy and nervous. She was making the last-minute preparations for her wedding, which was scheduled for the following day. It was a ceremony which would never happen. Miller, a teacher in the Raleigh school system, was brutally murdered in her Beckley home. Her fiance, Gary O'Neill, went to Princeton the night before to visit his father. He called Cynthia repeatedly, and then more and more, and became frantic when she never answered the phone. This was so out of character for her. She always answered the phone, but I was never able to get her to answer the phone on any of the repeated calls that I made to her. He made the gruesome discovery when he returned to the Beckley home. He found his wife to be shot 4 times in the head and shoulder. Police at the time had some leads, but none ever panned out. As time passed, the tips and the leads became fewer and fewer. Eventually, the case would go cold. Eventually, it was a case which would remain open, but the trail had gone cold and we had no more leads to follow, said detectives. I've always called them simmering cases. They're never really cold. Those original detectives are still around and I've worked with them for many years. They've never forgotten the murder of Cynthia Miller, and it haunted them, said Raleigh County Prosecutor Kristen Keller. A feeling of accomplishment came with last week's indictment of a California prisoner by the Raleigh County grand jury. He was charged with the murder of Miller nearly 40 years later. Last week, the Raleigh County grand jury indicted Earl James Robbins for 5 felony counts. Count 1 charged him with first-degree murder of Cynthia Jane Miller, who was killed on August 27, 1981 in Beckley, said the unveiling of the indictment on Tuesday. Since the case was taken straight to the grand jury, Keller and the members of the investigating team were very limited in what they were able to say about the investigation or most aspects of the case. It's unclear if Robbins and Miller had previous relationship or knew each other. Authorities also have not revealed a potential motive. By law, grand jury proceedings are confidential and are not open to the public. That is why we're so limited in what we are allowed to say by law. We're not allowed to disclose what information was presented to the grand jury to result in the indictment. Fresh open eyes were put on the case in 2017 as part of a cold case unit established by detectives from the Beckley County Police Department, Raleigh County Sheriff's Department, and the state of West Virginia police detectives and officers who have worked on pieces of the case in between current investigations for the now and since 1981. According to Keller, the diligence paid off, but she added the strong police work immediately after the crime also made a huge difference. The original detectives on this case had filed more than 100 pieces of paper with following up on leads, statements, and forensics that they were able to collect in 1981. Without this information, there never would have been a place or a time when this case would have ever reached a grand jury. They were able to take advantage of new techniques that which came available in the 1981 case in 2017. But I'm so proud of the police department because they have prevailed essential evidence for all these years. It has been preserved, and we can move forward with this case, and it can be used. This evidence was sealed away and properly stored for all these years. This is something that needs to be pointed out in this case. In 1981, most forensic evidence or biological evidence that would have been collected from the crime scene would have been put into a paper bag and then put into a cardboard box. But these detectives, two of them, which had gone to the FBI Forensics Academy back in 1980 and 1981, before this senseless murder had taken place, knew there were more things that they should do to preserve the forensic evidence that would be collected in this case. Robinson, now 64, is presently housed at the Valley State Prison in Chila, California. He is serving time for a 2005 conviction of assault with a deadly weapon, in which he was convicted of attacking his brother-in-law with a claw hammer. He was later charged and then convicted of an unrelated sexual assault. The sexual assault conviction resulted in a life prison sentence. Along with Cynthia Miller's murder in West Virginia, indictment charged Robinson with the abduction and kidnapping and first-degree sexual assault of a child under the age of 15 in Raleigh County in 1980. Keller said those crimes were unrelated to the Miller case, but were discovered in the investigation of her death. We're hoping that the indictment have been returned. There might be people who were reluctant to speak previously, and as often happens, only when there is a publicity generated by members of the family and the media to pick up, and say, "Hey, I may know something about this case." Extraditions have been radically changed since the coronavirus. Some states are no longer coming to pick up their criminals, so that obviously has affected the process in this case. Not law enforcement's fault that there is insufficient evidence sometimes. It's just that the evidence isn't available, she said. But in this case, we have an overwhelming amount of evidence that places this murder suspect and the victim in the same place at the same time. He had no business to be there. Robinson shouldn't have been anywhere near this actual home. Why was he there? Did they know each other? These are questions that will be answered in the court of law, not in the court of public opinion. Let us not forget the victim, Cynthia Miller, a woman who cared immensely about those who were underprivileged and those children that she taught as a school teacher there in the Raleigh area. Cynthia Miller wanted to give back. She wanted to make a difference in this world. Let us not forget the victim herself. Let's not focus on the senseless, hateful individual who took her life, but focus on the good person, Cynthia Miller, the lady who wanted to help. All the dreams that she had of someday starting her own family and going on to advance her education to teach more and to help more within her community was taken tragically on this day in 1981. Let us not forget her. Let's remember the victim. The victim is what's important here, not the evil, disgusting man who took her life. It was just a case of the wrong place, the wrong time, and that she answered the door to her own home. And this evil, disgusting individual came in and did this crime and took Cynthia's life. Let us not forget her. Focus on Cynthia. May you rest in peace now, Cynthia. And may your family be able to find some type of closure after all these years. Thank you for joining me today. And God bless each and every one of you.